We've all heard of VO2 Max. It's generally considered to be the benchmark for physical performance. I've come to Brighton University with TrainSharp to carry out some VO2 testing. I want to find out what VO2 actually means, how you find out what your score is, and how this helps your training and your performance.
VO2 max is a measure of the maximal amount of oxygen that you can take in and utilise per minute. The purpose of the VO2 max test is to identify what type of engine you have, and more importantly, how large an engine you have. This gives us a really good idea of your scope for potential and how much room you have to improve. It's often determined as the ceiling of your aerobic capacity. It's measured in absolute values or in relative figures. Absolute, it's measured in litres per minute. Relatively, it's measured as millilitres per kilogram per minute. Some of the top pros, so for example, Chris Froome recently reported to produce VO2 values of the high 80s. However, they do vary all the way from 70s all the way up to sort of 90 millilitres per kilogram per minute. There are a number of ways of estimating your VO2 max. The best way of doing so is using a breath-by-breath system with the mask, where we increase the resistance 25 watts every minute through to the point where you cannot take in and utilise the oxygen effectively anymore. You've hit your VO2 max and we'll call the test a quits. Care must be taken with the VO2 max as it doesn't show the whole picture. We've often tested very good athletes with very mediocre VO2 maxes, and likewise, athletes that in theory should be superhuman but don't perform out on the road. With the advances in power measurement and heart rate and monitoring your training, using the VO2 max test, we're able to identify your various training zones in terms of both power and heart rate. From here, we have really good, accurate data to ensure that every time we send a rider out onto a training session, they're doing exactly as we want. Whilst having a high VO2 max giving you bragging rights against your friends, most importantly, it gives you accurate training zones to work from in terms of both heart rate and power, meaning that when you do a training session, you're getting the most out of it and that you're going to see the improvements quicker.
So now that that's over, what were my numbers?
Your VO2 max is around about 72 millilitres per kilogram per minute, and your maximal aerobic power is about 420 watts, both of which are pretty good numbers. From here, what we're going to do is make sure that your training is effective going forward so that in future, hopefully we'll get you on some podiums.